Hello, this is Bassonomics and my name is Trevor. I've been doing just reels so far on my page and I wanted to show some baits, techniques, some things a little bit, not mainstream that you don't hear a lot about that could be really effective. I'm going to show you something that can be deadly in really cold water winter situations when the bite to catch bass, largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, in rivers, lakes, clear water, dirty water, it gets really tough. This is something I figured out about 10 years ago and I don't hear a lot about it. It's called the float and fly. So I'm gonna try to keep this short and sweet. I'm gonna show you a few different things of what I figured out. And when the bite is as tough as it can be and the fish just won't seem to hit anything, this can be a really lethal technique. I've won some tournaments on Lake Amistad. I've caught fish literally in 3 to 4 feet of water, all the way as deep as 70 feet of water using this technique. So like we said, it's a float and fly. Here's an example of what the bait looks like. It's an 1/8 of an ounce. They also make it in a 1/16 of an ounce. This is a hand-tied hair jig, Georgia tackle, Nature's, and out of Hiram, Georgia. There's a Nature's tackle box that they sell these things. I got an assortment of colors. As you can see, this one's really good. Their top seller is called the sushi color. It's like a bright, almost like a bubblegum pink color with a little bit of chartreuse. I've caught fish on all these. So what is it? So this is the hair jig. Now, float and fly traditionally is not on, it's on a fixed bobber with a long leader and a long rod, and you lob it out there and it can be deadly when the water's cold. And I'm talking in the 40s, anything under 55 degrees as far as the water temperature. Those fish, especially on the clear lake like Lake Amistad, I'm from Central Texas, so South Texas, Lake Amistad. I was up against a time when that lake was as tough as could be. Catching one keeper could be a challenge. And I figured this out and I was able to catch limits day after day when other guys struggled to catch 2 keepers. So here it is. So now once again, this is one of the lures I found. It's off the beaten path. I did notice that Tackle Warehouse has a Spro, kind of like a float and fly hair jig with a nice round bend hook on it. I haven't tried it, but I'm going to. So I figured out a way. These fish were 30 to 60 feet deep. And sometimes they'd be an 80 foot, but they were suspended at that 30 to 60 foot deep range, chasing bait fish. And we just couldn't catch them any other way. So I experimented and this is what I figured out. So what I did, instead of a fixed bobber, I used a Thill. This is a slip bobber. This is very common. I find them, I don't know about all over the country, but I get them from Academy. Now, if I'm using an 1/8 of an ounce jig head, super easy. It says 1/8 of an ounce on it. They have it in a 1/16 as well. Because I was fishing so deep and I needed to pull that line and get down there, a little faster to 30, 40, 50 foot deep. So I use an 1/8 of an ounce. That's what I had the most success on. So with a slip bobber, very simple. You got your little string bobber stopper. I don't use a bead because it's such a small, fine hole in this bobber that you can find pretty commercially at Academy or different places. So that line just slides through. Now I'm using a braided main line. It just helps with the line twist and you don't want stretch. You're down there that deep. You want to set the hook and then let the fish fight, and you want the sensitivity. So I use about a 10-pound test braid. You could probably do even lighter, just something thin, no stretch. As that jig would cast out, the line would go through. Now to get to the leader, I use a really tiny micro swivel. There's a lot of different manufacturers of these. Just get the smallest one you can. I'm sure I like the swivel because it helps, stop that bobber to the leader, and it helps with the line twist as well. So I would use either a 6-pound or 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. Want to get that swivel, away from the hair jig, the hair fly. So I'm using about a 2-foot leader between that and that. And what you do is You know, this is before forward-facing sonar that I figured this out. We'd use the 2D and straight down in ultra deep water. So I'd drop it down right next to the trolling motor, watch that hair jig go down, and that line slides through, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's sliding through. You'll get to the bobber stop, and you want that bobber perfectly balanced, and you want it to sit straight up in the water like that. Now, all you're gonna do, I mean, sometimes just letting it sit there and those fish will come up and all of a sudden your bobber will take off, you know you have one. But you had to impart a little bit of action to get the fish's attention enough and get them to eat it. So all you're gonna do is just pull the bait to the side, like you have your rod down to the side of the bobber and you just give it little twitches. And what that does is it just makes the bobber kind of kick like that. It just kind of wants to lay on its side just ever so slightly, and that's putting action into the fly down, you know, 5, 10, literally 100 feet deep if that's how deep your fish are. Now this catches bass, you can catch whites, you can catch crappies, you can catch stripers. I actually caught some really nice stripers on this, just a tiny little bait, a tiny little hook, caught 2 to 5 pound bass. In the winter time, even some 10-pound stripers, and that's a fight. So when you get a bite, and this little bobber's sitting in the water, you know, it's very subtle. They would mouth the bait, and they didn't always just take off with it. You just see the subtlest the bobber would go down just a little bit, and you pay really close attention to it, just like fishing as a kid with a bobber and a worm. As soon as you see that little bit of disturbance of your bobber that's not natural, you get used to how it sits in the water. You know, reel up your line, give it a snap. Now I'm using an 8-foot, I use an 8-foot crappie rod because it's a tiny light wire hook, and so you want a lot of bend in the rod. You don't want to rip it out of the fish's mouth, but you do want to get that snap, that braided line, get the hook set into the fish's top of its mouth, and then just let it play itself out. Set your drag really light and let the fish run. There were times with stripers and bigger bass that I was around some submerged trees in deeper water and they would own you, but if you just didn't pull too hard and you took your time, you could work the fish back out. Honestly, I never broke one off doing that. This is a very deadly no. The other thing to look for is just like crappie fishing. So when that bobber's sitting in the water and the fish pushes up slightly and they hit it, guess what? Your bobber sits sideways, reel up, you got one, set the hook, and you're good to go. Now the easiest thing is just when that bobber just takes off. So, you know, reel up your slack, give it a little snap, and just hold on and enjoy the fight. And it's a fun way to catch them. I was catching them all the way from 30 to 70 feet deep. So it's really deep water, it's clear water. You didn't want to bring them up too fast. So this technique helped, and the rod and the whole system, to make sure those fish were fine. I caught limits of fish in a single day when no one else in the tournament caught more than 2 keepers. So I really think this is something that could be powerful on your body of water. There's so many different variations of it. Play around. You know, something I've been doing recently, it's a little heavier, like a 1/4 ounce Thill bobber with more of like a forward-facing sonar, like a Demiki rig, you know, jig head and just a basic minnow. But I don't have to be vertical with it, and I don't have to reel it in. I can cast it out, and that bobber holds it 20, 30, 40 feet out from the boat, and I can do the same thing, just give it a little shake, just really minor action, and just look for that action in the bobber for when the fish takes it. You know, I've never seen anybody talk about that, like a floating Demiki, but I have tried it on Lake Texoma when it was tough, and I did catch fish when nothing else would work on it, so give it a shot. Thank you guys if you made it this far for watching the video. This is by far the longest thing I've done on Bassonomics. I hope to post more. I really want to share things that you don't see every day, that guys can try, not mainstream. I want you to learn something. I want you to catch more fish. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, share it, ask questions. I'll post some information to help find the products that I've used, but there is no guarantee. I think you know, I experimented and I found something that worked really good. It took a little bit to get the hang of when you get a bite and the hook set, getting those hookups. that took just a little bit, like a day of getting used to it. So it is a learning curve. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys catch some good fish on it.